Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got several big news updates to share with you here. Looks like last night, Russia and Ukraine exchanged lots of drone fire on each other's nations. Russia launched something like 67 drones into Ukraine. We've got a report that there's been drone fragments found near the parliament inside of Ukraine, so that's pretty big news. I'll show you guys that here in just a little bit. And one of our major topics we're going to go over today is a weapons depot being struck in the Voronezh region of Russia. This is somewhere around 125 kilometers from the border of Ukraine and Russia. So major hits by Ukrainian drones once again. We literally just reported a weapons depot being struck probably about maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, I want to say. And looks like Ukraine has done this again. And I want to say the last one that was hit was in the Voronezh region as well. So we're going to discuss this some more today. I also have a report of a major fire that broke out in Moscow yesterday in Albushevo near Zelenograd. Okay, so we're going to talk about that also because I've been discussing with you guys lately, showing you some reports that there's been lots of attacks on Russian railway systems, and their railways are very close to collapsing right now. Okay, we've had some reports coming out that I think 80 or 90% of their railway systems is completely collapsed in the country. So that's a major problem for Russia right now, and I wonder how they're going to resolve that. And we have this major fire that broke out near Moscow. So very, very big news coming out today. I've got multiple things to go over. So let's go ahead and start jumping into the news, and let's hop on over to X. Okay, so we've got this report from Bliskovka. SSU drones attacked a warehouse with ammunition in the village of Soldatsko in the Voronezh region, says mass media. It is noted that this warehouse was actively used by the enemy to transfer equipment to Ukraine. At this moment, 4 centers of powerful fire and continuous detonation of ammunition have been recorded at the facility, which continues to this day. Okay, so this was reported at 3:20 a.m. just today on September 7th, 2024. And this attack took place, I believe, somewhere around 6:30 p.m. Yesterday, which I believe would have been local time for me. I'm Pacific Standard Time in the United States. So it looks like this detonation was going on for roughly about 9 hours, maybe longer, according to this report from Bliskovka, because I've got some reports that show around 6:30 p.m. yesterday. So maybe longer than 9 hours. Who knows how long this thing was detonating for? And I also have some information that there could have been North Korean ballistic missiles. I believe there were KN-23 ballistic missiles in this ammo dump when it was destroyed. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to our next update and check out some of the video footage from Bliskovka. Drones attacked the Ostrogog district of Voronezh region of Russia. According to the local governor, a fire broke out as a result of a UAV crash and spread to explosives. Detonation began. Residents of one village are being evacuated to a neighboring village. Video is from local social media. So we've got a 25-second video that shows this thing on fire with lots of secondary explosions going off. So take a look at this. All right, pretty crazy to see that, right? I mean, we could definitely hear a lot of those secondary explosions going off. And again, I believe this is the second time the Ukrainians have struck an ammo depot in the Voronezh region. And very crazy to see this, okay? This shows that Russia's got these ammo dumps everywhere. And it shows also how massive of a stockpile that Russia has, considering that Ukraine has gone after so many of these ammo dumps all over Voronezh region especially, but anywhere near the border of Ukraine, many of these have been struck by Ukrainian drones. And yet we still continue to see lots of Russian missiles flying into Ukraine. So Russia definitely has a very major stockpile of weaponry. So let's go ahead and move on to our next update here from Ozent Technical. Ukrainian forces reportedly hit a Russian ammunition dump, in Voronezh Oblast early this morning. Footage posted from nearby shows a constant series of secondary explosions. So we also have this video that I was just showing you guys on the waiting screen when you came in. So we'll go ahead and watch it full screen with sound. So take a look at this as well. All right, pretty insane to see that. I mean, it looks like a fireworks warehouse went up in flames. I mean, we've seen, you know, in the United States, for example, a lot of fireworks warehouses go up in smoke sometimes, and we see that. We see a lot of these secondary explosions. So isn't that crazy to see all this detonated weaponry here at this facility? And this is good for Ukraine, obviously, and that's why they struck this thing, because these are less missiles and drones or whatever glide bombs that might be stored here at this ammunition depot that are no longer going to be flying into Ukraine. So that's very good for them. Major strike by Ukraine once again. Let's move on to another update from Anton Gerashenko. Russian Telegram channels report that ammunition warehouses in Voronezh region of Russia are still detonating. Okay, see, this was at 6:57 a.m. today. So approximately how many hours? Okay, like roughly about 12 hours potentially that this was still going on. Okay, so it definitely continued to detonate for a very long time. And it says here, this is confirmed by NASA Fire Monitor. Residents of a nearby village are being evacuated. There was information that North Korean missiles were at the warehouse. So again, lots of reports saying that there were Russian KN-23 ballistic missiles here at this warehouse when it went up in flames and potentially destroyed many of these missiles. So major hit by the Ukrainians. And let's go ahead and start moving on to our next topic now. Now I want to talk about Moscow with this railway depot that came under attack. And again, I've been telling you guys that Russia's railway systems have been sabotaged. We've had lots of reports in the past, months back, but lots of attacks on many of their locomotive trains that are just transporting military equipment around their country. We've had a lot of them hit by drones as well. So, you know, we've had lots of sabotage to their railway tracks. I mean, definitely Russia's having an issue right now with their railway systems, and it was reported by one of their some top military official, I forget his name, just a few days ago, was reporting that they were having a major collapse in their railway systems, and this is obviously a big problem for Russia. So how are they going to resolve this? Let's take a look at these videos, though, from Tendar. A large-scale fire at railway depot in Moscow region broke out. The depot is in Albushevo near Zelenograd. The reason for the fire is unknown. There is no information about victims yet, but local residents reported on social networks that ambulances arrived at the scene along with the fire trucks. So we have no idea how this fire broke out, but again, like I told you guys, lots of attacks on Russia's railway system. So was this an act of sabotage? And maybe this was somebody on the inside, maybe that's doing this on behalf of Ukraine, or we have no idea. But regardless, a major attack and fire here on their railway depot inside of Zelenograd, okay, or near Zelenograd. So let's take a look at this video. We got 3 of them actually, real quick.
Бочка с горючкой, возможно.
Но это не газ. Газ был.
Нет, другой цвет.
Что за хлопья висят?
Бочка.
All right, pretty crazy, right? And I do want to report as well, I saw some updates coming out on X as well, that there was like a some sort of car lot, like a car public parking structure that caught on fire. There was like 20 cars that were destroyed there as well. I think it was during the day today, just in Moscow. And lots of fires breaking out all over Moscow all the time. And it definitely makes you wonder if some of these are sabotage attacks or what's going on. There was just that government building that was on fire just in the last week as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at another video here. go ahead and stop it there. So it definitely appears to be a pretty large fire. We can see lots of the ambulances heading over here to help anybody that might be wounded. Was this an explosion, or was this some sort of fire that was started by somebody that was there? Again, we don't know, but definitely a major blaze here at this railway depot. So let's go ahead and take a look at one more video real quick. We'll go ahead and stop it again. And as we can see from this video one more time, major fire here. And I'm hoping I can get some more information on why this railway depot caught on fire. Maybe we'll hear something later coming out on X or maybe even on mainstream news on why this thing is on fire. But definitely very mysterious that we're seeing a lot of this inside of Russia, and it's continuing to happen till this day. So now we're going to move on. I've got some updates coming out from the Eastern Front, and also from the Kursk region. We'll talk about that as well. So I discussed with you guys yesterday that Ukraine had launched a counterattack on the Eastern Front near the major key city of Pokrovsk. And we've got more confirmation that for sure, yes, this was a major counterattack from the Ukrainians. So this is from Military News UA. The armed forces of Ukraine regrouped and launched a counterattack near Pokrovsk. And that was reported by Forbes. Okay, and the storming of the city is losing momentum. Reinforcements of the defense forces of Ukraine, the Karadag, I don't know if it's Karadag or Karadag, brigade of the National Guard and the 12th Azov and 93rd Mechanized Brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine are conducting local counterattacks, excuse me, the main effect of which is to slow down the Russian advance. Reserve units prevent the invaders from advancing near Selidov and quickly capturing Pokrovsk. Okay, so that's what we were hearing being reported yesterday. I'll let you guys know. I think it was from War Translated Dmitry. It was his post that we went over, that we had some sort of Russian soldiers that were reporting on their Telegram channels, and they were reporting that multiple brigades, like reserve brigades from Ukraine, were showing up around Pokrovsk, and they were launching massive counterattacks in that area, especially in Selidov. And we heard that some parts of Selidov were being regained by the Ukrainians. And then also here, up here near Toretsk, we have a town of, you guys probably can't really see, it's kind of small, but there's like a blue circle here. And that's where the Ukrainians also were pushing into the town of New York. And I talked to you guys about that yesterday. And they regained some positions there inside of New York that were originally lost as well. So this is why the Russians have stopped their advance on the Eastern Front right now. We had this report about 2 days ago from Alexander Sersky saying that the Russian advancement had been halted, and that's the reason why it was a major counterattack with lots of brigades from Ukraine. So also from Defmon, the last few weeks, Ukraine deployed units from at least 4 National Guards brigades in the Pokrovsk, New York sector to stabilize the front. As of now, it seems they at least have slowed down the Russian advances. So something I forgot to actually note in regards to these reserve units showing up yesterday is I had some information too that apparently many of these troops that are showing up here as reserve units to hold the front back here on the eastern side of Ukraine, they actually are coming from other countries. Okay, there are many of the Ukrainians that have been pulled from lots of the countries nearby, like Poland and Romania. Many of them who fled away from the war when the war began, they left to countries like Poland and Romania, and their governments over there have been trying to work to get the Ukrainians back to their country to get over here on the front line and fight. And apparently that's where a lot of them are coming from, and that's probably why we're seeing all of a sudden these massive amounts of multiple brigades and troops showing up over here on the front line. So I wanted to share that with you guys as well. So let's move on to War Translated Dmitry now. Evaluating Kursk. Okay, we're going to talk about the Kursk region now. Russians note a severe personnel shortage that prevents them from pushing out the forces in the Kursk zone and implementing further offensive plans in the Donetsk Oblast. The risk of additional incursions remains. Okay, so apparently the Russians are having a personnel shortage, although we heard from Volodymyr Zelensky that something like 60,000 troops were transferred from the eastern front of Ukraine, maybe even from the south. We heard even the Zaporizhzhia regions and even Crimea, they were pulling some troops there as well. The Russians were, that is. and sending them over to the Kursk region. And we also heard probably about 2 weeks ago, Vladimir Putin was visiting in Chechnya with Kadyrov, and Kadyrov was saying they had something like 40,000 trained troops ready to go over to the Kursk region. So why are they having a personnel shortage? Very interesting, okay? So take a look at this. As tactically, unfortunately, it is turning into a push-pull, not because the hohols, the Ukrainians, are so good, but because we simply do not have enough forces and resources. There is a lack of human resources. There is enough artillery. We are more or less overcoming the shell shortage with varying degrees of success. We are trying to do something about FPV, which I'm assuming is the drones, the FPV drones maybe. Good, bad, but it is clear that solutions are being found. The problem is that there is no systemic solution for personnel, lack of people, and why are the operational plans of the command both in the Donetsk and Kursk directions not yet being implemented as we would like? Because there is no one, and this is the main problem. What will the hohol, which is Ukrainians, plan for the next step? He has 2 options. This is an attempt to cut off Crimea from the mainland, landing troops in Crimea, although from a military point of view, this is sheer madness because the storm season is coming. How will the infrastructure for the landing be provided? This is a one-way landing, go and die. From the point of view of PR and the capture of the settlement like Yalta, they can very well do this, simultaneously striking the bridge and shouting that they cut the bridge and captured the city. Another option, a dangerous one, is an attempt at an incursion in the Bryansk direction because of the border to Bryansk. There are practically forests. If you bypass Bryansk, there are forests to Kaluga. The enemy is hatching plans to bring serious light infantry, sabotage, and reconnaissance groups into the forest to organize sabotage actions, ambushes, cutting off infrastructure, attacks on columns, military units, government agencies. This is pure Basayevism, if I'm saying that right. Similar to the attack on Budianovsk in 1995, it is correctly called a sabotage or sabotage terrorist raid. Such actions are not undertaken in groups of 5 people. Now the enemy is tempted to bring groups of 150 to 200 people, considering how they can conduct tactical landings using helicopters at extremely low altitudes. This cannot be ruled out. If the infrastructure of the landing in Crimea causes skepticism, then all options must be taken into account here. So clearly, this man was writing about troop shortages in the Kursk region. Again, I thought that was very interesting that we're hearing that, considering that Volodymyr Zelensky said the Russians had sent something, excuse me, like 60,000 troops over there. So how are they having a troop shortage and equipment shortage if that's the case? Equipment shortage makes sense because we heard that the Russians were asking Belarus to send some equipment over, like some probably some APCs, different military equipment over to the Kursk region to help them out as they were short on equipment. So we did hear about that, but definitely very interesting, okay? And he was talking a lot about a potential incursion into Crimea as well, and we've been discussing that at some point, Ukraine does plan to try to push into Crimea and retake it. They've talked about it a lot before. Now, do they have the resources to do so? Who knows? I mean, Ukraine's been doing some pretty amazing things lately, but they may or may not have the potential to retake Crimea. Who knows? But also, just pull this up real quick if you want to take a screenshot of that. This was the original transcript that War Translated Dmitry was sharing. So let's go ahead and move on to our next update now. This is also from the Kursk region. Reinforcements in the Kursk region did not go well for the Russians. The driver of a military Kamaz failed to control the vehicle and crashed into a concrete fence. So the Kamaz is like a military logistics truck that was carrying this tank. And it says the T-80 tank fell off the ramp and overturned. The driver died on the spot, and the co-driver suffered multiple fractures in his lower extremities. So I don't know how this thing crashed, but apparently this truck rammed into this concrete wall. We could definitely see the whole top end was smashed down, and that's probably why the driver did not survive. And it looks like if there was the passenger there, the co-driver, they're saying he definitely got lucky, okay, considering that the entire top of the car was crushed, okay? So very crazy to see that. We've got more photos here. Again, I don't know how this happened. I mean, how did this driver manage to do this? Was he driving too fast, lost control of the vehicle? But we can definitely see this T-80 tank flipped over on its side. We can see all these racks that are on top of the tank too that Russia's been installing on these to prevent them from drone attacks. So crazy to see that, right? And also, let me show you this from Ukraine battle map. Ukrainian HIMARS GMLRS destroyed a Russian pontoon bridge over the same river at the Glushkovsky district in Kursk. So the Russians are continuing to construct these pontoon bridges to do whatever they can to hold on to the Glushkovsky district. We've been talking lots about that in the Kursk offensive. I don't have any updates as of if Ukraine is getting closer to even Glushkovo, which is one of the major cities in an area of Ukraine, or excuse me, of the Kursk region that Ukraine has been trying to take over. It's approximately like 700 square kilometers. There was 3 bridges in that area that we talked about several weeks back that have been destroyed, and Russia's continuing to try to build these pontoon bridges. We can't play the sound, unfortunately, because it's just music, but we can see there's this bridge. A car was driving over it. There it is, struck by HIMARS, being destroyed. And we've probably seen, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 of these videos just in the last maybe 2 weeks of multiples of these pontoon bridges being constructed and then soon after being destroyed by the Ukrainians using these HIMARS systems. So pretty crazy to see that. And now also, we're going to move on to these drone attacks happening inside of Ukraine. Just yesterday, it says just in from Nexta, excuse me, Russia attempted to attack the Ukrainian government quarter. The attack failed. Debris of the crash drone was found near the Verkhovna Rada building. Okay, so we had reports yesterday that at least 67 drones were flying into Ukraine, and supposedly Ukraine shot down most of these. So this was probably debris from one of these drones that were probably targeting somewhere inside of Kiev or something. And it looks like it was probably shot down because we can see, bits and pieces of it here. But also, this is what I pulled up here just to show you guys it really did happen. This was on Yahoo News, originally reported by UPI. Ukraine shoots down 58 of 67 Russian attack drones. Okay, this was reported today, September 7, 2024. So they did come under a pretty heavy drone attack from the Russians as well. And I wasn't hearing really any other information. There was no pictures or videos or any damage really being reported inside of Ukraine. And it would make sense if this is true that Ukraine had shot down a good majority of them, okay? 58 out of 67. Also, this was pretty crazy to see too, okay? From Nexta, Russia attacked Belarus again. During the night, Shahed drones entered the country's airspace. The drones entered the country from the Cherniv region. In response, the Belarusian Air Force raised aviation. So they had to bring their Air Force into the skies once again over Belarus to probably start shooting down more drones coming from Russia. This is the second or third time we've heard of this in just the last week. Whenever Russia's launching drone attacks onto Ukraine, these Russian drones they're actually Iranian drones, but Russia is using these, and they're flying into Belarusian airspace. I don't know why that doesn't want to load. Just a picture. But yeah, these drones are flying into Belarus, and they're having to be shot down by Belarus's air defense team. So, or at least their Air Force. So crazy to see that. Okay, we've seen this happen multiple times over the last week, and now we're going to move on. So I talked about this, I believe, yesterday, letting you guys know that I saw some video footage of a FPV drone that had an AK-47 attached to it. So I wanted to share this with you guys. We're not going to be able to watch the video because I think the video might show this thing being used against some of the Russian troops, and I don't want to have any issues with that. But we can take a look at a couple of these photos here. And it says from Nexta, from the Build publication, the AFU used a flying Kalashnikov assault rifle for the first time against Russia. The AK-47 assault rifle was mounted on a platform with 4 propellers and lifted like a flying drone into the air. In mid-August, such a system attacked the positions of Russian troops for the first time. A group of Ukrainian engineers, Wild Hornets, delivered such a weapon to the AFU. So I actually saw that actual report from the Wild Hornets. They delivered tons of cases of these little drones. So we'll go ahead and take a look at these pictures here. We can see this AK-47 being attached to an FPV drone, and it's crazy that these drones have enough power to carry something like an AK-47. Okay, because it's not a light weapon; it's a fairly heavy weapon, and for a small little drone to be able to carry that, pretty impressive, right? And we can see there from this thing flying in the skies. We can see that magazine sticking out here on the side too. They were able to attach that thing, and it does look like a pretty large size drone. So maybe that's how they were able to make this work. So these are pretty effective drones, and Ukraine has been doing all kinds of things with these. They've been attaching molten thermite to these, dropping thermite all over the forests of the Kursk region and the Donetsk region, Luhansk region. And now they're starting to put AKs on these, explosives, all kinds of different things. They're getting very clever with these drones, and they seem to be very effective in this war. So also, I've got a report coming out from Iran. We did a whole segment on this yesterday, letting you guys know that we had confirmation. The United States said that Iran definitely did transfer these ballistic missiles to Russia. Okay, so I've got this report from Nexta, from the Times originally. Iran has transferred more than 200 ballistic missiles to Russia. The publication reports that these are FAT-300 missiles with a range of up to 112 kilometers. Okay, so FAT-300, I'm not aware of that system, but I have been talking about the FAT-360 system with you guys, which is a short-range ballistic missile system that's very similar to HIMARS, if not maybe a little bit better. And now we've got reports here that 200 ballistic missiles being transferred to Russia. So I'll probably do a separate report, on this later and dive into that, give you guys some more details in regards to this. But these are some of the pictures of these FAT-360 systems, and I see they've got different styles. So maybe the 300s might be some of these other ones that have less tubes, but I know the 360 has 6 from what I understand. So very big news coming out from Iran. So a few more things to share with you guys. War translated Dmitry. Russia's posted video of supposed convoys of Western combat vehicles moving through Slovakia to Uzhgorod, Ukraine. They say supplies are not slowing down. So we've got a 38-second clip here of Western combat vehicles heading into Ukraine. So take a look at this. Alright, so in this video we could definitely see multiples of these armored vehicles heading over to Ukraine, and we know that I reported to you guys yesterday there was multiple military packages coming from different nations in NATO, and especially in Europe, that were sending Ukraine tons of equipment. Okay, Ukraine's going to be getting a lot of support over the next few weeks just from that meeting in the Ramstein Air Base in Germany yesterday. So we're probably going to be seeing more and more video footage like this coming out, showing lots of military equipment heading to Ukraine, so that doesn't surprise me. Also, from Nexta, EU to transfer 300 million euros from frozen Russian assets to France, for Ukraine's armed procurement. The deal covers ammunition, artillery, and air defense. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be getting more of this money from the frozen Russian assets sitting in European banks. They're going to be using the funds that are produced off of the interest that's made off of these funds sitting in these banks, and they're going to be using it to cover more ammunition, artillery, and air defense for Ukraine coming from France. So that's some big news, and we've seen this happen quite a few times, okay? And this is obviously a big slap in the face to Vladimir Putin, as these were lots of assets that were taken by Russia at the start of the war, and now these assets sitting in banks producing interest. They're using that money to fund this war in Ukraine. And again, these weapons are going to be being fired back against Russian soldiers. So that's obviously a big issue for Russia. Okay, they're definitely not happy about that. So also for Vicegrad 24 breaking, Zelensky meets Giorgia Meloni in Italy. We must not give up on Ukraine. I don't think the fate of Ukraine has been sealed. A Russian victory isn't imminent. We must not fall for Russian propaganda, Meloni stated. And by the way, Giorgia Meloni is the Prime Minister of Italy. And also later she added, supporting Ukraine is a choice of national interest, which will not change, Meloni stated. The Italian side has also announced that they will help with securing Ukrainian energy systems this winter, and reiterated that Italy will continue to train Ukrainian soldiers. So looks like Italy is going to be standing with Ukraine further as this war continues. We're not going to watch this video because it doesn't have any subtitles and it's not in English, but this is Giorgia Meloni here, the Prime Minister of Italy, and we had Volodymyr Zelensky meeting with her, I think it was just today or yesterday as well, and this was just after the Ramstein meeting at the airbase in Germany. Okay, so big news coming out from Italy, lots of support coming from them, and also from next to Radoslav Sikorski, and we're going to talk some more about him. He is the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Poland, and he's coming out saying we must help Ukraine protect its nuclear power plants from stray Russian missiles. The Chernobyl nuclear accident happened in Ukraine. Imagine that a Russian drone or missile goes off course, and instead of flying towards Poland or Romania, or as has already happened, it hits one of the Ukrainian nuclear power plants. I think we should help Ukraine protect its nuclear power plants. So Radoslav Sikorski has been coming out a lot lately and talking about this, okay? It definitely seems like he wants to allow Poland, or he wants to push for Poland to have the ability to take down Russian targets over Ukrainian skies, okay? And this is obviously a major talking point when it comes to nuclear power plants, because there's a major risk. Let's just say, for example, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It's right in the middle of a war zone in the Zaporizhzhia region, and anything could happen. And then also we have the Chernobyl nuclear power plant up near Belarus as well. So, you know, we have drones flying over that place all the time too, because we have reports of drones going into Belarus. So I feel like he's trying to create a talking point to allow, potentially NATO members nearby, maybe even Romania, but for sure Poland, to start shooting down Russian missiles and drones coming into Ukrainian territory, because obviously their airspace has been violated multiple times. And this definitely seems to be a push from Radoslav Sikorski in regards to that. Okay, so I've got one last report I want to go over with you. We're going to talk about Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of Russia. So this is from DD Geopolitics. Dmitry Medvedev. Donald Trump took offense at the current administration and threatens to lift sanctions against Russia. Will he lift them if elected? Of course not. Despite his apparent non-systemic nature, Trump is ultimately a systemic character. Yes, he is an extravagant, narcissistic type, but he is also a pragmatist. As a businessman, Trump understands that sanctions harm the dollar's dominance in the world. However, not so much as to stage a revolution in the U.S. and go against the anti-Russian line of the notorious deep state, which is much stronger than any Trump. And what about Harris? There are even less surprises to be expected from her. She is inexperienced and, as her enemies claim, simply stupid. They will prepare for her beautiful, meaningless speeches and boring correct answers to questions, which she will read from a teleprompter, laughing infectiously. Sanctions against the USSR existed throughout the 20th century. They returned in the 21st century on an unprecedented scale. Therefore, for all of us, sanctions will be forever, or rather until the collapse of the United States during the inevitable new civil war. After all, it is not for nothing that Hollywood makes films about it. Okay, so what he's talking about here is a viral video from Donald Trump that's circulating all over social media of him basically coming out and saying that we can't have all these sanctions on Russia because ultimately it's just hurting the dominance of the dollar, and it's hurting the United States in the end, okay? So that's kind of what he's talking about here, and maybe would Donald Trump lift sanctions on Russia? I think maybe not right away, but potentially in the future, maybe they might. Because considering that Donald Trump is more of a businessman, he does understand those kind of things. At least it appears that way, more than maybe some of the politicians in Washington right now. So I thought this was an interesting take here from Dmitry Medvedev, and obviously he's very he comes out and speaks like this a lot. He's very provocative, and obviously he's talking about civil war in the country, and he says it's not for nothing that Hollywood makes films about it. So he's obviously kind of joking about the United States, saying that United States might go into a civil war or something, and it'll be the collapse of the United States more before it will be the collapse of Russia. So just thought I'd share that with you guys, just kind of throw that in there in the end, let you know what Dmitry Medvedev has been saying, because I talk about him every now and then. But yeah, lots of big updates coming out from Russia today, and Ukraine So I just wanted to share some of this information, let you guys know what's going on over here. But that's the latest update as of September 7, 2024. I hope you guys got something out of this. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.